down that camera and strap in. It's time for a new episode of TogChat Live. Get ready for 60 minutes of wall-to-wall photography, including photo news, tips, and your photography questions in real time, with answers from your host, Olympus Visionary Joe Edelman.
Hey, that's me. How's everybody doing? It's Wednesday night, and thanks for joining me for another live episode of TogChat. I'm your host, Joe Edelman, and as always, my mission is to help photographers like you to develop a better understanding of the hows and whys behind great photography. So before we get going, gang, as always, please take just a minute, share, tell your photography friends that we are streaming live on YouTube right now. Twitter, Facebook, you know they're the fastest way to get the word out. I'll go ahead and I will paste the link right here in the chat window for you, or you can click on that button that's beneath the video that says share and spread the word. And of course, make sure that you check in. A lot of you have already started. Floyd's here from the UK. James right up the road in Milford, Pennsylvania. Alex is here from Paris. I got Alan from Copenhagen, Denmark. How cool. Dean is here from the UK. Carl from New Mexico. So please check in. Let me know where you're at. It's always great to see where people are in the world and where they're watching. I see that thumbs up going from a couple of you. Thank you. Please hit the thumbs up button. That's always greatly appreciated. And be sure to start posting your questions for tonight's discussion. I will do my best to answer all your questions, even if it's not about working with models, during our 90-minute, 1-hour show. So I want to jump right in tonight. I think that there's a lot that you guys are going to want to talk about. And I think that there is going to be some debate and a lot of questions. So I don't want to waste, oh, there go those thumbs up. Thank you, gang. I appreciate it. I don't want to waste a lot of time with business. I'll throw some business stuff in as we go. But I really do want to kind of get into it and get at it tonight. So our topic tonight, if you saw my social media today, you know the topic is let's begin a conversation. And I say begin a conversation because if we're going to do this right, we're not going to cover all of it in one night. We're just not. So I want to have a conversation about working with models. And more specifically, what are the struggles that you face when you work with models? And, you know, we can interchange that word models and subjects a little bit because maybe you're not trying to do fashion or you're not doing glamour or boudoir and modeling, so to speak, but you're working on building your portrait game and trying to do good portraiture, and you are kind of running into issues, shall we say, along the way. You know, every time this subject comes up when I am on the road and I'm presenting or I'm talking to people, you know, literally like right away, the response from photographers is like, oh my God, like you have no idea the trauma and the drama that I have to deal with when it comes to working with models. And I hate to tell you, gang, I don't care if you're a male or a female photographer, every time I talk to models about working with photographers, it's the same kind of response. Like, oh my God, you have no idea the crap that I have to put up with. So that being said, it's time that we have a discussion. And part of that discussion involves kind of trying to get everybody on the same page. And what I mean by that is getting everybody to understand some simple terminology, some labels, what they mean, and how they oftentimes have different meanings. Because here's the problem. At 50,000 feet, if we go way up here and we kind of look at the big, broad picture, I can tell you this, and I can tell you this with certainty. Photographers all lump models into one category, models. And models all lump photographers into one category, photographers, at 50,000 feet. And the fact of the matter is they're very, very different. There are many, many different kinds of photographers. There are professional photographers. There are amateur photographers. There are photographers that are into boudoir. There are photographers that are into fine art work. There are photographers that are into trashy work. There are photographers that are into creative beauty work, and so on and so on. Same with models. There are models that are amateurs. There are models that are professionals. There are models that are professionals but never signed with an agency and never will, in fact, maybe never could. And then there are models who are professional and signed with an agency. Each of these different categories and variations that I mentioned actually will have a very, very different reality in terms of how they operate their business, how they behave in front of a camera, how they behave when planning a shoot, etc., on both sides of the camera. So that's what we want to dig into a little bit, okay? Newt, I see your question about boudoir. Have I ever done it? I have. I'll tell you what. I will come back to that question. Let's chat a little bit more about this topic. If we're running out of time later and I've forgotten it, so I'm giving you advance warning, do me a favor and don't be afraid to post that question again a little bit later when we get into the open Q&A, okay? But in the meantime, I want Vasily, hello from the future. That's awesome. I hope the future is good. I really do. So I want to see you guys talking to me. Oh, don't forget, DMAC, we're going to talk about the IG models. But even on IG, I wouldn't call an IG model a category in and of its own. I would call IG a platform via which to find models. On IG, there are amateur models, there are professional models who are not signed with agencies, and there are professional models who are signed with agencies on IG. And they all post dramatically different types of images, and they will all have very different types of behaviors. They will all agree or not agree to do very different types of photography as models. So this is what we're going to get into. So I posted the question, obviously, earlier today on my Facebook and Twitter and so on. And I actually got some really good responses. Some photographers who took the time to basically go ahead and tell me some of the things that we're struggling with. So I want to get into that, but first, going back to the idea of 50,000 feet and separating the categories, let's be clear about a few concepts, okay? And first of all, actually, I'm sorry. Let me take a step back because I know if I say this, this is going to bug some of you. So yes, here's the bait. Let's see if you take it. All of you photographers who complain about the way your models behave, whether it's because they flaked on a shoot and didn't show up, or because they didn't bring the clothing or the accessories or whatever that you told them to bring, or because they wouldn't do the things that you wanted them to do, all of you guys that complain about that, or women, by the way, to be fair, I've heard women complaining about that too. It's your fault. Your fault, not the model's fault. Now, I'm not saying that the model is always scot-free, 100% in the right, and should always get a free pass. No, 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 no. But all of those complaints that I just mentioned, I am going to try and teach you tonight how we can track all of those complaints back to the photographer not doing their job, okay? So, that being said, let's get a couple things straight. And we're going to talk about models, since that's what we're here to do tonight. First of all, when we hear the word model, very similar to the way when we hear the word photographer, if you go to the dictionary and you look up the word model, it doesn't say anything about making money. It says that a model is a person who poses for an artist or photographer, right? Sometimes it'll talk about fashion models. Other times it might mention a modeling agency, which of course is getting into the money aspect of it. It may have a reference to the idea of supermodel, which are models that do indeed make a lot of money, which there really aren't a lot of supermodels today, not like there were back in the 80s and the early 90s. But a model is a person who gets in front of a camera or an artist's brush, canvas, whatever they're working on, okay? So first thing you've got to understand is that the responsibility is on you as a photographer to look at someone, or better yet, remember that when you're going to photograph somebody, that's a relationship game. We're photographers. If we photograph people, we are in the business of creating relationships and making moments, collaborating together. That's what we do. So it's your responsibility to figure out in advance, what is the subject like? What are the obstacles that I'm going to face in dealing with this subject? What is their understanding of modeling, of what they're doing? What are their goals? So many people, photographers, pick up a camera and decide they want to shoot models, and this model is a thing. She is an object. She is someone, or he for that matter. Obviously, let's make it clear, I shoot mostly women, so I will keep saying she. I don't want to be accused of being sexist and all that stuff. So it doesn't matter if the model's male or female. Same deal, by the way. I swear to you, straight across the board. It's the same with guys as it is with women. I've dealt with male models that are actually 10 times worse than women. So, it's not about which sex is it. Let's be clear, okay? But people hire these girls and they expect them to do all the work. They expect them to know what outfits to bring. They expect them to know how to do the hair and the makeup. They expect them to know exactly how to pose. They expect them to make the photographer look good. They expect them to get in front of a camera and basically put on a show and pose and twist and dance and do all kinds of stuff. And then the photographer just wants to sit back and snap, 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 because the photographer either doesn't know what to do or say or how to direct, or more importantly, the photographer is too damn afraid to say what to do or how to direct or to take a chance at saying, you know what, let's try this, and then realizing it didn't look good. Okay, so we move on. But the photographer is afraid to do the learning curve and to take responsibility for the decisions. So right out of the box, you've got to do a little bit of honest reviewing of yourself and your working methods in the mirror. If you're one of those photographers, it's okay. But be honest with yourself that you're one of those photographers and understand that all those complaints you have about models, it's all because you're not doing all the things that you should be doing. You can't blame it on the model. Because here's the thing, gang. All of these things that you guys all bitch about, and I'm going to read some of these topics in a moment that have come to me from all around the world. So the cool part is I was thrilled. These comments that I got are not just from the United States. I've got some from the Netherlands. We're all over the place here, okay? I don't have these problems. I didn't have these problems. Now, that is not to say that never has there been a girl that was just a total nightmare for one reason or another. Yeah, people are people. Heck, I can be a total nightmare, and I'm sure I have been at some point, okay? So, there's always that exception. But as a rule, I've never had a problem working with a model, because I do my job. And even from the beginning, part of what helped me, honestly, because I'm really OCD. I'm all about details. I don't like to leave things to chance. So since I don't leave things to chance, I eliminate all the issues. So let's take a couple examples here. So Caleb, this comes from Austin, Texas. Caleb asked me this question, and these are literally some really, really well thought out comments and questions that I got from people here, folks. So the first one is, he says, what are your best practices for pre-shoot communications and the planning? Oftentimes, as he mentions, it's not a problem to get someone to agree to do the shoot, but then it becomes a lot more problematic once you get them involved in the conversation about expectations and vision and outfits and styling and what kind of feedback. So he really has a hard time making that happen. And I find that so many people that start working with models have a hard time making that happen. So in terms of best practices, here are some guidelines that I would give you. So number one, here's what you don't do. You don't go, and by the way, I'm going to talk to you about the best ways to find models in a few moments. I will tell you, because I know I've already seen it go by. Somebody else asked me earlier today, so how do you find models? That's like my biggest thing. I can't find the models to take pictures of. I don't know what to do. People never like my short answer. My short answer to that question is you ask someone. The worst they'll say is no, right? Remember, a model is a person that poses in front of your camera. A model does not indicate any skill. And to be honest with you, most of you shouldn't be looking for a specific skill. You should be looking for a person who has a look or specific features that you are after. That's what you should be after, okay? So how do you handle all that prep? You start with an idea. And I saw somebody, in fact, here, Cooley mentioned this before. And I'm going to put a couple of these up there because a couple of you threw some really good pieces in here. Cooley said, you need to have a concept to start with, to plan, and plan to fail. I would agree with that 100%. And then Alex also said, let's see, can I get two of these up here at the same time? I don't know if I can. Let's try it. I've never tried two. Oh, it will. Let me do two as well. Oh, no, it changes them. I'm sorry, gang. So Alex also said That's where mood boards come into play. And yes, mood boards can be very helpful, but here's the point. Start with a concept. Why do you want to photograph this person? So when I'm working, when I'm looking for models, getting ready to set up shoots, it can come about in a couple of different ways, meaning I might have a concept that I want to shoot. So if I've got a concept that I want to shoot, then my task is find the right model. I may need a specific look. Maybe it's something that's boudoir or even a fine art nude. Well, then of course, not only do I need a specific look, but I need a model who is comfortable working in that genre, right? So it may start with a concept and then I find the perfect fit in terms of the person's look or even skill set. Maybe I'm doing something where I need a person to be able to do really interesting jumps or dance moves, things like that. So then I'm going to find a dancer. In fact, right now I'm in the process of putting together a couple shoots with some ballerinas. All of those things are driven by what is my concept. Flip side of that, and there's nothing wrong with the flip side might simply be that I've met someone and I think she's beautiful. I am compelled to want to photograph her. So I've got this beautiful subject. Then the question becomes, what can I do with her? What I'm not going to do, which is what so many photographers do, is I'm not going to say, yeah, let's shoot Saturday, 1 o'clock. That'll be awesome. Show up, bring a bunch of stuff, and we'll figure something out. Really, really bad idea on so many levels. Because number one, I'm just leaving it to chance. I'm hoping that on Saturday at 1 o'clock when she arrives, I am going to have some kind of divine intervention that is going to make me the most creative I've ever been so that I can pull something out of my butt and create this amazing image. I'm not that good. Maybe you are, I'm not. So I want to figure out what is it I'm going to shoot with her, and then I will schedule my time and my date. And then I will definitely, without fail, schedule a makeup artist, and if necessary, a makeup artist and hairstylist. My goal when I can, and that's why I work with Monet, who you've seen in so many of my videos. Monet is actually a hairstylist by trade. She owns a small hair salon, but she is excellent at doing makeup. So she does my makeup, my hair, and I can have one person do it. But if need be, you may need 2 people to get the job done. Whatever it takes. Great photography is the result of solving problems. But I got to work all that out in advance. And then when we get to the point where we've got to talk about outfits and that, I'm going to communicate with the model, and I'll get into that in a minute, but I want to deal, first with Caleb's question here, okay? Really what I'm trying to point out to you, gang, is that for those of you, so I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone here. For those of you that do the, hey, yeah, let's show up Saturday at 1 o'clock, bring a bunch of stuff, and we'll shoot. What you are projecting to your models, you may think that you're being laid back. You may think that you're being cool. Or worse yet, you may think that that's a great idea, period. But what you're projecting is you don't care. Why? Because you are putting little to no effort into planning and preparing for that shoot. That's the message that you're giving to that young woman or that young man, regardless of what comes out of your mouth. So, the point is, you have to put effort into it. You can't just say, show up and let's shoot. When I shoot with somebody, I know exactly what clothing is coming in my studio days, preferably at least a week in advance of that shoot. Not to mention that I've made it clear to them, don't bring anything else. If I'm working with a girl that I know happens to be a fashion diva and a real clothes horse, and I know she's got like an amazing closet, I will occasionally, once I have told her what I want her to bring and we've agreed on the outfits, I will occasionally say, you know what? Wild card. Throw 2 outfits in, bring them along, just in case we have some extra time. Just to see what she comes up with. And you know what? 1 out of every maybe 6 or 7 shoots, the girl walks in the door with an outfit that I hadn't even conceived of, and I'm like, oh my God, we will make time for this. This is really cool. Most of the time, I don't even touch those outfits. But I'm also going to make sure that the girl's really happy with the shots that we planned since I made her bring that extra set of outfits and since I've asked her to do that additional work, okay? So, actually really quick here, Ian from England just asked, when do you need a model release form? or yeah, when and when not. When and when not do you need a model? Okay, I'll get that straight. Easy answer, Ian. Don't ask that question. Get one all the time. That's the safest thing to do. You know, I hate to say it, gang, but we live in a very litigious world today. We just do. For those of you who don't know what litigious means, it means people love to sue people, right? They love to litigate. I don't have time or patience for that stuff. I just don't. So the best thing to do is make sure that you've got everybody on the same page right out of the box. Get a release all the time, okay, period. I personally do use a couple different releases. When I say a couple, I've got a total of 3 in my arsenal. One is for children, and I have very, very few children, but in the event that there is a minor in the release, that means I'm going to need a parent or a guardian's signature, so that's a slightly different release. My standard release is essentially a standard modeling release. It gives me full rights to anything that I want to do with the image at any point in time without having to pay any money back to the model, yada, yada, yada. Okay, and that's a standard release. Frequently when I do my fine art images, which I don't get to do that often, but when I do, one of the ways that I have been able to get some really, really excellent subjects to pose in front of my camera. And when I say excellent subjects, I mean people that I was really interested in photographing, but they would not traditionally do fine art nudes, was by not having them sign a release, by having them sign a document of intent, which is simply a letter that says, I am photographing these images with the goal that at some point in the future, I will hopefully either produce a gallery exhibit or an educational magazine article based on this work. In the event that one of the images that we photograph is of a quality that I feel would be beneficial to the article or a gallery exhibit, I will come back to you and ask you to sign a release. Do I have your permission to submit the image for that purpose, etc.? So I'm taking a gamble. I am taking a risk, but I've never had a person say no. And that's because the images that I wind up submitting or using, I've never gotten around to my gallery exhibit yet. I have done some magazine articles and some video work and some blog work based on fine art nudes. The images that I choose are awesome images, and I've never had a person say, oh my God, no, you can't use that image. So that's a risk. I'm not suggesting everybody take that risk because it's certainly possible that you may not be able to use that image in the end. And if that's the case, then you negotiate harder up front and you use a standard model release. So planning, super, super, super important. You've got to put effort into it. If you're not putting effort into it, you're basically communicating to your model, I don't care, it's not a big deal, so hey, if you decide you get something better to do at the last minute, or your boyfriend calls and says, hey, now let's go out and do this, or another photographer calls you and you think that photographer's better, so they decide to, shoot with that person, you kind of brought it on yourself. You have no right to complain. So literally what my process is, gang, it's a process, and this is, when I first say it, it's going to sound like it's something I'm doing that's kind of mean. It's not at all, so hear me out. I make sure when I find a model online, so I'll give you an example. Last weekend, I was in Vermont to do a presentation for a PPA group. So that's a Professional Photographers of America group. Cooley Priestley, am I going to put out a file of samples of model releases? No, I'm not. They're legal documents, and my advice would be go see an attorney or find one online. I will tell you this. My patrons on Patreon have routinely asked me for copies of my releases. I will provide them to my patrons with the warning in writing, take this to a lawyer. I'm not making you any legal guarantees here. So certainly if you join Patreon, follow me there. I will gladly provide you copies of the ones that I have, but I won't distribute them for free because it actually puts me in a position of potentially being responsible if somebody has a bad experience using one of them. So I hope you can understand that. If you Google modern release, there are hundreds of them that will show up. So, it all depends on how concerned you are about litigious people. If that's the case, I would encourage you to download one, take it to a lawyer and say, hey, what do you think about this? Okay. But trust me, you don't want to take your legal advice from some guy on YouTube, right? Not a good idea. So anyway, going back to the planning, et cetera, okay? For me, that planning has got to demonstrate that everybody's serious. So I mentioned that I'm going to have the girl jump through some hoops or the guy jump through some hoops. So the first thing I do is somebody has expressed an interest in shooting with me or a willingness to shoot with me, even if I have asked them. And yes, I ask people to shoot. I have a link that I will send them. You can go to the website. You're not going to find it, so you can all chill out, okay? It's not linked anywhere on the website. But I have a link that I will send them to a form that I will ask them to fill out. And that form is essentially an application. It's an application to shoot with Joe. That form will take them a good 5 to 10 minutes to complete. It's going to ask for some background about their modeling experience. If they're signed with any agencies, I want to know about those agencies, etc. It's going to ask for all their stats, their height, their weight, their measurements, their dress sizes, shoe sizes, everything. It's going to ask for them to provide me with links to their social media, specifically Instagram, Facebook. If they have an account on a website like Purpleport or Model Mayhem, I want those links. And it also even asks, why do you want to shoot with Joe? Because honestly, I want to know what it is about my work that they're interested in, which also helps to know that I'm planning a shot that is something they're likely to like, as opposed to planning a shot that they're ultimately going to be disappointed with. Expectation is everything. Whether it's with a client, whether it's with a model, whether it's with a friend. If you do not set the proper expectations before you pick up the camera, you just make your life a whole lot harder. You're almost guaranteeing failure, or at least you're really increasing the odds of it happening, right? So expectation is everything. Now, once they've done that form, at the end of the form, it tells them, please make sure you friend me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram. If they don't have any of those social medias, it tells them, send me a couple simple selfies. And regardless, it tells them to text me or email a simple, clean-faced, no makeup selfie with a hair pulled back, both forward and profile. That's it. So I'm asking them to put some effort into the shoot. And it tells them that I'll get back to you within 24 hours of receiving that information, and we will talk. We'll do some planning. I make sure that I follow up within 24 hours, schedule a call with them, get on the phone, and talk for a good 35, 40 minutes about why I want to photograph them, about my photography, about ideas that I have, about ideas that they have. What would you like to shoot? What kind of stuff do you have fun with? I'll ask them about what kind of modeling have they done. And more importantly, I ask them about, where are you trying to get to as a model? Are you doing it just for fun? Are you hoping to get signed with an agency? If the girl's hoping to get signed with an agency and she's out there doing all this boudoir stuff and cheesy glamour stuff that so many of you like to shoot, she's destroying her chances of ever getting signed with an agency, and you're helping her. So I set out to provide value. If you've watched my social media videos, you know what I'm talking about when I talk about value. So I'll ask her, what are your goals? I try to find out, how can I help her? How can I provide, maybe it's information. Maybe it's even making a phone call to open a door, make an introduction, which I've done many times. Maybe it's simply just a matter of realizing, hey, she wants to be a fitness model, but nobody will photograph her in fitness gear, so she has no fitness pictures. Well, you know what? Even though I want this picture, I'll gladly do some fitness shots for you in exchange to help you with that part of your portfolio. And I'll even put just as much effort into those as I will the stuff that I wanted, because I'm just that nice a guy. Really, because it's fair, right? So this conversation is establishing a relationship. Requires time, requires effort. Great images require effort. So now at the end of this conversation, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to discuss with her dates. Now, here's one that always blows people away. I know many of you that are watching this, whether it's live or whether you're watching me later. James Brown, models don't like structure. You're full of crap, James Brown. You're full of crap. You just don't know how to present your ideas properly, okay? I have never had a model give me a hard time about structure, man. Never. In fact, they thank me for it. 100% of the time, they thank me for being so detail-oriented, for knowing exactly what I want, for telling them everything they need to do, because most of you guys don't. So sorry, James Brown. That's a bunch of crap, okay? And I'm the old guy, and I managed to get that structure without being an old fart. It's simply understanding that they're human. Like I said a little while ago, guys, you're going to hear me go full circle a bunch of times tonight. A bunch of times. You can't treat them like some robot that is supposed to just know what to do and do their thing. That's not what a model is. If you want that, go to Ford Models in New York, spend $500 to $1,000 per hour, and hire one of the top models in New York City. And you still won't get what you want, but you'll get closer. Most of you don't have that budget. Most of you aren't at that level where you could even begin to work with a model like that, so don't try. Understand that you're working with someone, in most cases, especially these girls on Model Mayhem and all that kind of stuff, you're working with someone who is trying to have fun. Someone who wants to have fun. Someone who would like to learn some things and who would like good pictures. Approach it that way instead of expecting them to know things. And if you approach it that way, think about what I'm just saying. If you approach it that way, you don't have to know all the things. If you approach it that way, you simply have to have a desire to create something good, and you have to talk back and forth. That's the way it works. John Wilson just put up a quote here. A coach once told him, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. Structure works. And you're right, John, it simply does. So let me talk about the structure thing, though, because this is important. I have had people, when I get to this point in this conversation, I have had people say, but you know, Joe, you're the guy that always says no rules. Rules are creativity killers. Isn't structure like being in a box? Isn't structure killing creativity? Which is an excellent comeback. It's an excellent comeback, but it's a completely different topic. Let me explain. All the structure that I put into place, remember, I started, again, let's go full circle. I started with a concept, an idea. This is what I want to turn into an image. Okay, so that's step one. So I've already done some creating in my mind. I've got this idea. Now, getting all the pieces together, making sure that the model's prepared, making sure that the hair and makeup artist knows what's going on, making sure that I have the right outfits, the right backgrounds, the right props, costumes, everything. That's not creative. That is something that benefits from structure. And the reason why I put so much effort into this structure, and the reason why I want to walk into the studio when it comes time for my first shot, when the model comes out of the makeup chair, I want to have that first shot completely planned out, ready to go, lights are set up, everything's ready to go, so that I can get that shot quickly and rapidly. All the time knowing it's probably not my best picture. Why? Because your best shot, it's your next shot. Knowing that now that I've got all the pieces, now that I've done all the structure, I know that I've got this really great opportunity in front of me. I've got this beautiful model. I've got this cool setup, great lighting, all the pieces are there. Now it's time for me to forget about structure and go back to being creative. Because now that idea that started in my mind or on the internet because I saw it on a website or in a magazine because I saw it in a magazine page, that idea that started there is now in front of me. My version of it is right there in front of me. So now I can go back to being creative and I can look at what's in front of me and I can imagine, where can this go? Where can I take this? What can I do that is going to make this interesting? So this structure is incredibly important, and the structure is in no way at all a creativity killer. It actually allows me to be more creative. It gives me more bandwidth in the moment during the shoot where I don't have to be worrying about all of that stuff, and I don't have to be sitting there like, well, what can I do with this? I mean, this stuff looks cool, but I don't know what to do. All that structure has led me to a shot that I'm able to take very quickly and very easily so that there's no pressure now. Now I can relax and I can try things. And even if I don't have a clear idea of where to go, and for those of you that will watch my videos or see me teach in person, better yet, you've seen that I'll take material and just throw it on something or twist it or whatever, just to see what's going to happen, just to experiment. Okay? So let's go on to another question. Let's add a little bit to this. Okay? Dr. Rastapasta, what does if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time mean? So Dr. Rastapasta means that if you have a goal, a target, if a person playing soccer shoots for the net, they don't hit the net every single time. They miss sometimes, right? But the fact of the matter is, if they tried not to aim for the net, they would miss the net every single time. It's a guarantee. So if you don't have that target that you're aiming for, if you don't have a target that you're working towards, you're going to miss that target every single time. That's it, okay? So it's a little bit of a play on words, but it's very appropriate. It's very true. It's basically, why are you doing it in the first place? What's your reason? Have some place that you're trying to get to. If you're out walking the street, you're on vacation, you're just looking around, it's like, oh, that's interesting, that's interesting. You take pictures as you find it. That's cool. But when we're talking about models, getting models to show up, talking about getting models to put in the effort, if you don't have a goal, like, why are we doing this? And the why, by the way, please, the why is never, ever, ever, ever so that we can get good pictures. That is not the why. So that we can get good pictures should be the why every single time you touch your camera. Otherwise, what the heck are you doing, right? I mean, what's the point? So that's the idea behind that. All right, Caleb had another question. I want to keep moving through these because some of this stuff we're gonna repeat it and come at it from different directions. We just are. It's a part of the topic because there are so many different facets and nuances to this, gang. So I think the more that I cover some of this, the more there's a chance that people will start to kind of get it. So the second one is actually more of a business. In fact, actually, I'm going to come back to Caleb's second one because it's more of a business question. I will come back to it. Jean Calvino in the Netherlands has a question for me here. He's got two things that he deals with all the time. So one, I kind of talked about this, but let's bring it up again. Last minute cancellations from the TFP models. So for those of you that don't know what TFP is, sometimes you'll hear TFP, other times you'll hear TFCD, which is even worse yet, but TFP is basically time for print. It's the idea that you're not paying the model's not paying for you, everybody's going to go ahead and just shoot. Back in the early 2000s, when digital technology came along, prints were still important to people. Models still actually carried real modeling portfolios all the time. So when it was a test or a trade, it would be time for print. Model would give her time in exchange for prints, right? Photographer got images for his portfolio, model got a print for her portfolio. Then some people got lazy, the photographers, and said, well, you know what, we're not going to print them, but I'll burn them on a CD and I'll hand you CDs. So that was the time for CDs. I will tell you this. If you are working with a girl who is serious about modeling and wants to go to modeling agencies and you are just handing her files, come on. Man up, spend the money, get her prints. Make sure that the appropriate size for the market where she's going to try and model, because not every market uses 8x10s, some use 11x14s. Give her prints because that's what she needs. If she's doing it for fun and she's happy with digital files so she can post them on Instagram and Facebook and all that, awesome. Good for you, good for her. That's cool. It depends on what she's trying to do, okay? So his problem is last minute cancellation from TFP models. He hates it when one does that to him, and he usually will not work with them again in the future since they did not respect his time. I completely agree. If a girl were to cancel me, and by the way, I've never had a girl stiff me on a shoot. Never. Not once. I started to say this before and I got sidetracked. Last weekend, I did a presentation in Vermont for the Professional Photographers Association in Vermont. So it's a professional organization. It was a one-day workshop. So it just so happened, since I drove to that workshop, I took Monet with me, but I also hired a second model. And I do this almost every workshop I do. I went to Model Mayhem, which is the most popular of the modeling websites here in the United States. And in this particular case, like frequently I've been using Instagram more than Model Mayhem. So I'll talk about how I find models on Instagram. But in this case, I wasn't finding a lot because this was up in like Colchester, Vermont. So it's way up there, almost in Canada. So it's not exactly a huge city. I couldn't find anybody on Instagram that I would ever consider photographing. So I went on Model Mayhem and I found a young woman that, fly monkey, yes, football, not soccer. I apologize. So I found a young woman that I thought would be great. Gorgeous, beautiful jawline, the whole bit. Her pictures were horrible. Absolutely horrible. So you have to learn to actually see details. You are a photographer, right? So you don't take things at face value, you pay attention. This young woman just had not worked with a lot of great photographers, and I wound up having conversations with her. Turns out she also struggled in knowing what was really good for her. So lucky me, she was very excited to hear from me. But in addition to that, I did all my normal planning. And in addition to that, she was getting paid not a lot of money at all. She worked for 4 hours. She got $125. And sorry, gang, but guess what? She got $125 and she got to keep her clothes on. So, you know, this whole mentality on these amateur websites that the only way you make money is if you get naked. Come on, gentlemen, we're better than that. Don't be that guy. If you are not able to provide legitimate value, something that that girl really wants or really needs, at least at a minimum, give her 20 bucks for gas, right? Pay her for the cost of getting there. Or, you know, in fact, give her 50 bucks in advance and tell her, hey, here's 50 bucks. Go find a really cool outfit for the shoot. Make sure that that outfit meets this criteria, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But then she's bringing an outfit that only you can shoot. Those are the terms. You're giving her that money. She gets a new outfit, but you're the only one that can photograph it. That's what you tell her. Trust me, you do that. A girl will respect that. And then you've got an image that's unique. Even if that girl is one of these girls that's photographing with 10 photographers a week and her pictures are freaking everywhere and all it is a big testosterone competition to see who can get the better picture of her, you all know what I'm talking about. That way, you're getting an image that's unique because you're the only one that's going to photograph her in that outfit. So put the investment in. You'll spend all this money on your cameras. Spend it on the people that are going to collaborate you to make you look good as a result of that. And it doesn't have to be 125 bucks. Like I said, it could be 20 bucks for gas. But incentivize a person. When you're doing this, they're going to show up. So anyway, this young lady, she filled out the form for me. She then had to call me on the phone because that's what I told her to do. We had a conversation on the phone. Then after I booked her, I sent her an email confirming all the details, dates, times, monies that you'll need to sign up, everything. And in that email, the very first line and the very last line, please read this email carefully and then respond to confirm that we are on the same page. Got the response within literally 30 minutes. Cool. So by now, she's jumped through all these hoops. Right? She's filled out my information form. She's talked to me on the phone. She has sent me the pictures that I requested. She has gotten my confirmation email. She's responded to that. And then the last thing she still had to do, in that email, I gave her directions for the outfits that I needed. And I only had to worry about tops. I was using her as a portrait subject. So I only cared about her tops. So I gave her a description of the tops. In fact, I may actually be able to show you. Let me see if I can show you the picture here. I'll hold it up to the phone if I'm able to do this. I may have moved it already. And if I have, I'm sorry now that I teased it, but let's see here. Let me see if it's still on here. I do not still have it here. Wait. One more shot. Let me take a peek, and I'll do my best to at least let you see what this girl did. Because by the time I put her through, you know, all these steps, no, I don't have it. I'm sorry. She actually took the time to put on 8 different outfits, tops. She had her husband take pictures of her in them, okay? And I tell people selfies are fine. I need to see the color of the outfit and I need to see how it fits the person. But she had her husband take the pictures for her. She put them all together in a nice little composite, numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and send it to me. So all I had to do was go through and say, yes, bring me numbers 3 and 4. That's what we're gonna work with. Perfect, super easy. By the time I get done this, I have no fears, no concerns, none about this girl not showing up. She's on board. She's invested quite a bit of effort into this shoot already, just like I have. And the best part of it is, it's really not that much effort for me. You know why? Because I do it every single time. So these emails that I'm telling you about, the ones asking for information, the ones saying, hey, send me pictures, the ones saying, hey, here's the confirmation, I have those all set up as templates. Cut and paste, change the names, change the dates and times, change the address, boom, send it out. There it goes. And I get it back. So Ed Bowden here, if she's willing to do those things, that gives you knowledge they're invested. It cuts down on the no-shows. It absolutely does. It virtually eliminates the no-shows, guys. Because here's the thing. When you're going through those steps, if you have that structure, if you have that process, understand that no girl ever, or guy ever, said, I want to do a photo shoot so that I can look crappy. Whoever said that? Have you ever heard anybody say that? Never. Nobody wants bad pictures. All of these steps make it very clear that you are invested in taking great images. All of them. It also gives this person plenty of opportunities to kind of tip their hand if they're the kind of person that's not willing to put effort in. Because they will drop the ball long before you get to the confirmation email. You'll wait 4 days for them to fill out that form. That's a big indicator for me. When I send that first form, that application to somebody, and this is not me trying to have an attitude, this is me being realistic about human nature. I want them to be excited about working with me. I know that form is going to take them a minimum of 10 minutes to fill that form out. If I don't get that form back in 48 hours max, and I don't tell them this, if I don't get it back within 48 hours, I'm not going to work with them. I'm just not. That's a problem. I'm giving them an opportunity to shoot. In most cases, I'm going to pay them something, or I'm incentivizing them in some way. They're going to keep me waiting 48 hours? Oh, hell no. Not going to happen. Move on. It's a numbers game. You know, in all due respect, there is plenty of beautiful women, plenty of attractive men to photograph. There's really no shortage of that, because it's not about, is a person the most beautiful person? At least for me, it's not. It's about, you know, is a person interesting? Is a person unique in some way? Is there something about that person that wants me, or makes me want to photograph them? Fernando, what do you ask in the application form? I mentioned a little while ago. So, and by the way, guys, you could do these application forms like on Google Drive, right? So, you know, mine is on my website. It's nice and fancy, but you could do it on Google Drive. It doesn't have to be like, you know, expensive. You don't have to go spend a ton of money to do this, but put some effort into it, right? So mine, of course, asks for their name. It asks for their name, their city, their state, their email address, and their phone number. You notice I left out street address. This early in the process, don't be asking a person for their actual address. That's inappropriate. It's simply inappropriate. And we'll get to that in a minute, okay? It's inappropriate. So, I want to know what city they're in, and I have every right to ask that, because if it turns out they're from like 5 hours away, yeah, I'm not going to book this person, because there's so many things that could go wrong in terms of them getting to my photo shoot, right? So, no, I want somebody that's, you know, even if I'm booking a person that's 3 hours away, it's way too easy for that girl to wake up that morning and say, oh, I don't want to do a 3-hour drive. It's rainy outside. Yeah, no, I'm not going to create that, okay? Or if I'm dying to work with her, then I understand right out of the box, well, you know what? Maybe I should consider seeing if there's a way to get that girl to come in advance, okay? Like the night before. Maybe she has a friend in my area, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, okay? So the form asks for that information. Then it asks, you know, what's your modeling experience? Are you signed with any agencies? It asks for, what are your modeling goals? Because I want to know what her goals are. I care about the people that I photograph. So should you. Otherwise, why are you photographing them? They are not objects. If you want to photograph objects, you could save yourself all of this grief and go buy a $60 mannequin on Amazon. You've all met Lola, my mannequin. Lola is incredible. She loves what I put on her. She never complains. She loves it when I change her hairstyles, never complains about her hair. When I tell her to stay, she stays. If I move her, she stays. It's great. No grief. So if that's what you want, get a mannequin. Otherwise, you're dealing with a human being, not an object, right? So the rest of the form, Fernando, I asked for all their stats. Height, weight, you know, all the measurements, bust, hips, waist, dress size, shoe size, eye color, hair color. What else? Oh, types of modeling that they're interested in doing, just like you see on the modeling sites, you know, whether it's commercial, whether it's fashion, whether it's fitness, whether it's swimsuits, lingerie, boudoir, nudes, all that kind of stuff, okay? I do all of that, so. Then I ask for, where can I see pictures of them? Social media, in which case, what are the links, okay? Per Luigi, thank you so much, man. I really, really appreciate the super chat, okay? I asked them for, you know, how am I going to be able to find photos of you, et cetera. So Fernando, that's basically what it is, okay? It's a way for me to get to know them. It's asking for them to share a fair amount of information with you without me crossing the line of kind of being inappropriate because I don't know them yet, right? That's kind of the goal there, okay? So let's see here. Joe Newman, really quick. Where do I live? I'm in Allentown, Pennsylvania. That's where I'm at. I don't know you well. We haven't been on a date yet, so you don't get the actual address, but Allentown, Pennsylvania. I'm halfway between New York and Philadelphia. So for me, it's a great location. It's also where my wife happens to be a college professor. So until she retires, she's tenured. We're staying right here. Let's see here. Well, all right, let me hit this one from John Edward here. I want to get back to the list, and I'm going to come back and try and get through all these guys. So John Edward's asking here, what if you sense the person is insecure about themselves and you come across it being very serious and then they run away at the last minute? Well, so, John Edward, let me be clear about the very serious. And John Edward, you're one of my patrons. So you have seen me on YouTube like this, and you have seen me in our Friday Zoom chats where, I kind of let my hair down, so to speak. So you've also seen the very not politically correct version of me, okay? And kind of a little bit more of the real version of me. At the end of the day, regardless of which version you get of me, and these models get the real version, not a YouTube version, right? That guy is somebody that cares. My goal is not to get laid or do something inappropriate. My goal is to make a really great picture. That's my goal. Anything and everything I'm doing is about getting a great picture or a great series of pictures. That being said, I know that the more comfortable I can make this person, the better my photographs will be and the better experience that I'm going to have and that they will have working with me. So, the fact of the matter is, talking about, the idea of insecurities, gang, and if you've worked with any number of models, you've all dealt with this at some point. If you haven't, just wait, you will. Because a model can be anybody. Just like a photographer can be using one of these, right? A model can be anybody. That means there are a lot of young women and young men. I've worked with young men that have the same issue. That honestly, they shouldn't be modeling because they have very low self-esteem. And they decided, hey, it would be a really good idea. If I model, that will help me build my self-esteem. Worst idea ever. Just is. For so many reasons. And God forbid, if that person who has low self-esteem decides stubbornly that they want to be an agency model, guaranteed failure. I've told you guys before, for almost 17 years, I made my living shooting modeling portfolios. Those are the people that I would turn down. I never turned down a model because of her appearance, ever. I could be, here, true story. Think about this, gentlemen, okay? And ladies. I could be a very successful male model. Look at this. This is not what we traditionally would think of when we think of a male model. There's no George Clooney happening here, right? So how could I be a very successful male model at my age? Simple. If I put together a modeling portfolio, took the earrings out, got rid of the bracelets, the rings, all that stuff, covered the tattoos, and I presented myself as that middle-aged dad. Imagine when you turn on the TV and you're seeing the kid's soccer game and there's the crazy dad in the baseball cap and the shirt and the shorts running up and down the sidelines with a clipboard, like yelling at the kids saying, come on, come on, come on, okay? I could be that guy. I could totally be that guy. Or that middle-aged guy that's mowing the lawn, building something in the garage, fixing up the house. I could be that guy if I presented myself that way to the potential clients. So the fact of the matter is anybody can be a model as long as we're being realistic about what kind of modeling we're going to do. If I thought, oh, I want to be a model and I'm going to be on the cover of GQ, that chance, right? Not going to happen in this lifetime, just being real. So that would be completely unrealistic. So that problem, John Edward, is that you have to pay attention to people and understand that, sadly, gang, working with models, male or female, it's a numbers game. It's a lot like relationships. Most of us don't meet, date, and marry our high school sweetheart and live happily ever after. Most of us just don't. And statistically in the world today, extremely few people do that. Relationships are a numbers game. Relationships are something that takes some effort and takes some time, etc. So that would be my answer to you there, John Edward, okay? So I'm already seeing something here about the bit about creeps. So let me back up to the initial one. All right, so, okay. So Joe Newman, this is a great question, and this is a tough one to deal with. So let's deal with it, guys, all right? His question is, why is it that female models don't ever seem to understand that we photographers just want to make a great photo? We are not interested in anything inappropriate. So, Joe, here's the worst part of this, man. Okay? I don't know how old you are, but I'm going to guess that you are in the realm of my Jean Edward. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Here you go. Funding for my modeling portfolio. Great. You guys get that up high enough. I'll hire a great photographer if I can find one to do my modeling portfolio. But the problem of it is, just so you know, it'll be really expensive because for my modeling portfolio, it's going to have to be somebody that is damn good at Photoshop, like way good at Photoshop. Just saying. Because to get this to like George Clooney status, yeah, that's going to take some work. So, Joe, here's the challenge, right? You're 43. All right, perfect. So you're over 40 at least. So you're a kid by my standards, but still, you're over 40. So here's the problem. Most of these girls that you're talking about, Joe, they're in their early 20s, maybe even late teens. And that's okay, by the way. Nothing wrong with late teens, okay? Because there's a bunch of information to throw at you here while we're talking about age. But there's a substantial age difference. And understand that a girl at 23, most girls, let's say she's 23 years old. A 23-year-old would look at a 43-year-old, and that's like, oh my God, like, you know, and I get it. Every now and then we hear about those dramatic age differences, but, you know, a girl at 43 or a woman at 43 might look at a 63-year-old and say, yeah, okay. But at 23, that 20-year difference is huge. It's massive, right? So here's the thing. It's not up to them to understand that you're not interested in anything inappropriate. And Joe, I'm willing to bet, since you're asking me this question, that you're in the United States or maybe in Europe, but you've either used Model Mayhem or Purple Port. So you have to understand, if you take a step back, that these girls are trained very early on. I mean, imagine if you've ever used these websites, gang. If you imagine that you were a girl that went and signed up for one of those websites, okay? Just imagine for a minute. Imagine what your experience is. You are going to learn very rapidly that and if you didn't already know this, okay, that all guys are perverts, that all guys want you naked, that at least half the guys want to sleep with you and do things that you've never even thought of before, not alone want to do. That's what you learn when you join those websites. That's the experience that these girls have. Guys are trying to game them. Guys are trying to get in their pants. Guys are trying to get them to do stuff they don't want to do. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of guys honestly just don't know how to talk to a young woman. Period. So they learn really quickly not to trust. Now, let's talk about the trust thing, because I want to throw some fuel on this fire, right? So get ready, guys, because this is going to get some of you all freaked out. So do me a favor, let me finish my explanation before you all start typing. Then you can go nuts on me if you want, because you're not going to change my mind. I'm right, and it works. I do it all the time. I'll even provide references. When I shoot a model, I don't care what age, even if she's 15 or 16, I do not allow the parents to come to a shoot. I do not allow boyfriends, girlfriends, any friends to come to a shoot. Ever. Now, before you start typing, remember, please pause. I asked for just a minute. Let me be very clear. I'm a father. While I was very fortunate I had a son, I didn't have to deal with the stress of having a daughter. I think like a father. In today's world especially, I would never encourage a girl to just show up at some guy's house in his basement to do a photo shoot without a lot more information. I would never encourage that. So now you're thinking, well, wait, he's just talking in a circle because he just contradicted himself. He said he's not allowed to let anybody, he doesn't let anybody come, but he won't allow his own daughter, if he had one, to do that. Chill out. Problem solve. Problem solve for her and for you. If I have a boyfriend, girlfriend, spouse in attendance during a shoot, I am never going to get that subject to behave the way that I want them to behave. Not that I'm going to ask them to do anything weird or dirty, but if there's someone who knows them really well or intimately there, they're not going to be willing to come out of their shell and pretend and act and have fun and do things that are crazy and wild. They're simply not. So I don't want that influence. But how do I keep them safe? It's very, very, very simple. If I do not have a relationship with the model long before this shoot, I am going to request a meeting. And this is another part of jumping through the hoop. It's going to take an hour of my time. I'm going to have to invest an hour of my time into this, one whole hour. But I'm going to schedule a meeting and have that girl come so that we can sit down and talk face to face and discuss the ideas on her shoot. And when I schedule that meeting, I am going to suggest that if she has any concern whatsoever, that she bring a friend, a spouse, or a relative. Okay? Period. Every time. That way, if there are any concerns over me or my basement, someone is coming with her. Then, every single confirmation that I send out for a shoot, every single one, when I put the address down, I explain this will be happening at my home studio. Now, I will admit I do have the luxury of happening to have a YouTube video about my home studio. So I also put a link to that so they can see that like it's a real photo studio. But I also have a second sentence after the address and after that link that says, if you have anyone who cares or worries about you, please forward my address and phone number to them for safekeeping so that they know where you are. If it's a 15 or 16-year-old, and by the way, I photograph very few teenagers, very few. But if that's the case, I make it very clear to the parents. They come for that first face-to-face meeting. I tell them, look, if you hire me, if we're going to do this, you do not get to be here. So part of your hiring decision is, are you willing to leave your daughter here? And I explained to them at that point, she has a cell phone. You will give us a couple preset times during the day for her to check in. And by the way, the kid's not alone with me. My makeup artist, who is a woman, is here the entire time. They have preset times agreed upon where the kid checks in. We also make sure that while we're taking all the selfies for the kid's Instagram, we text some of them to mom or dad, who's ever the one that's responsible for taking care of them that day. Never had a problem. I have never had a client or a potential client, let's be clear, potential client, never had a potential client say, I'm not comfortable with that, won't do that. Simply won't do it. Not happened, okay? John Wilson made a statement here, and honestly, it really mirrors what I've been saying. You know, John says, courtesy costs nothing. That's right, it doesn't. It does require effort. It simply does require effort, okay? And that's the thing. And guys, look, I'm not trying to take a cheap shot here, but the effort part is where so many of you struggle with your photography. Not just modeling, but photography. It's not putting in the effort, right? You got to put in the effort. And so, Joe, the fact that, you know, a dirty old man is the answer that you get, the girl's beautiful, you know, she make a beautiful model. It doesn't matter what you think. It simply doesn't. Joe, you can't tell me what I should think. I can't tell you what you should think. You can't tell her what she should think. Her experience, her life experience is that guys will try to take advantage of her. It is your responsibility as a mature adult of 43 to ensure that every element of your behavior proves to her and assures her that she has no concerns. And if you're still getting that kind of response, then honestly, I would simply ask her, what can I do to make you feel more comfortable? I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. I think this picture would make an amazing picture. If you agree and you like the idea, but you're concerned about doing it with me, how can we overcome that hurdle? That gives you a talking point, okay? It simply does, all right? So, Michelle, you're a chatterbox. I don't know you, but you know, this is one that I will address, okay? Michelle says, most of us models just ignore these awful messages, but maybe we need to reply that this is not the way to speak to a woman before the model's block. So actually, Michelle, and I'm going to have, this was suggested last week. In fact, Nick just came here. Nick was the one that suggested this last week. So this is going to be a topic that's going to come up over the next couple of months, because starting next week, I've got interviews lined up for a while, but we're going to revisit this modeling stuff quite a bit. And I am going to do at least one full episode from the model's perspective. But I want you to be clear, and Michelle, just so you know, the reason why I put you in timeout earlier for talking so much, your opinions are important to me, but if you've been listening closely, how I've been explaining to people that there are different types of models who have very different perspectives and different goals and different realities. I want to be able to try and present things as evenly as possible. So when we do the show about models, I assure you, I am going to have models. In fact, Nick referred a young woman to me that he has done some work with, who is a perfect example of a girl who's doing a lot of modeling. She's beautiful, but she's never going to be an agency model. In fact, she wouldn't be able to get signed by an agency if she wanted to. So I think she's a great person for us to have on and talk about her experiences. And I guarantee you, Michelle, she is going to have some similar experiences to you. But I will tell you this. If we are ever going to make things better, we, meaning all of us, we're all in this together, gang. Okay? Period. Don't just block them. Do respond to them. And here's why, Michelle. By responding to them, you are doing what we're all taught to do as children. You're doing what we're all taught to do in church. I'm not a particularly religious person, I'll be perfectly honest. But if you are, you're taught to give people the benefit of the doubt, right? Now, I don't mean blindly give them the benefit of the doubt. I mean you're taught to give people the benefit of the doubt. So by responding to that photographer, and not necessarily being a jerk, but maybe giving the benefit that they just used a really poor choice of words. I mean, assuming, of course, they weren't just graphically horrible, right? There's always a dividing line. And respond and say, you know, language like this does not make me comfortable and does not make me want to shoot with you. I appreciate your offer, but I'm not interested. Now, a gentleman who respects women will do one of two things. One, either respond and say, I'm sorry, and try to correct the course. Or two, be a jackass and either not respond at all or respond with some ranting message. If they respond with a ranting message, Michelle, block them. Then you have every right and every reason to block them. Absolutely, okay? But, you know, to start with, if we could, you know, start by trying to have conversations with people, then yes, okay? So, Deborah, I appreciate that you do trust me. Thank you. I am very honored by that. Deborah, I thought are you a photographer or do you actually model? Because maybe we will involve you in this future conversation that's coming up. So, Diego mentioned here, you know, definitely nothing substitutes being professional, respectful, communicating honestly, maturely. Yeah, I mean, and think about it, gang. I mean, first of all, Diego, thank you for saying that. But the truth is, isn't that common sense, right? For all of us? I mean, isn't that common sense? Don brings up the point. Do you think that a lot of these issues are because the conversation is usually held by emails and messages instead of face-to-face on the phone? Hell yes, Dom. Oh, yeah. And believe me, I'm like Mr. Technology. I am all about technology. But here's the way I look at it, gang, right? Unless you really are a pervert and you're shooting porn, you can't take your pictures by a webcam, right? With the person in another location. You've got to be face-to-face. You've got to have them in front of your camera to take the picture, right? So we're all in a people business. So at a minimum, if you can't meet the person, have a conversation. Guys, even when I was doing modeling portfolios for a living, I had models that traveled routinely from Los Angeles to Allentown, Pennsylvania to shoot a modeling portfolio. There's no shortage of great photographers in Los Angeles. They came here because of the advice and the guidance that I gave them in addition to that. But here's the thing. When they were getting on a plane to come here, there was no way for me to schedule an advance meeting. Couldn't do that. They weren't going to fly here twice to shoot a modeling portfolio. They were going to arrive in town the afternoon before or the night before we did their shoot. That doesn't give a lot of time to build that relationship. So whenever I worked with a model from out of town who was flying, we would do a couple Skype sessions on the phone so that we had a chance to talk face-to-face. So that hour that I would put in face-to-face, we did it by Skype. I gave them the same information. Make sure people know where you're at. Not just your flight information, your hotel information, but here's where you're going to shoot, here's the phone number, all that stuff. And then when they arrived the day before their shoot, I would meet them that day, even if I had to go pick them up at their hotel. And frequently I would pick them up at the airport because they flew into Allentown, where I'm at. The airport's 15 minutes away. So I could pick them up at the airport, and I would bring them here to the studio, and we'd sit down, and I'd even put them in front of the camera for 5 minutes. No makeup, none of that stuff, just to do test shots. I would tell them, hey, these are just so that I can figure out what the best lighting and best camera angles are going to be for you. I pretty much already knew that from the Skype phone calls that I did. But it gave me a sense really quickly, because the girl doesn't separate oh, these are test shots and these are real. She's getting in front of a camera. So if she's the nervous type, if I've missed some cues about her anxieties or that kind of stuff, I'm going to see it firsthand right in front of me. So that way, when I get up the next morning, I know exactly what I'm dealing with. And I know exactly what it's going to be like to work with her. And I know where I have to work to put them at ease, right? So again, it's about putting in the effort. But Dom, yes, I completely agree with you. The more personalized and actual real interaction that you can have, the better. And here's why. Guys, if you listen to any of my social media stuff, if you've seen any of my social media talks, if you've been to any of my personal branding talks, if you've watched any of my social media videos, the number one mistake, and we're all guilty of it, me too, it's hard to remember it all the time. I've made this mistake. I'm not proud of it, and I've gone out of my way to correct it, even when I've made it here on YouTube. We forget that there is a human being on the other side of this. Even when we're typing, even if we're dictating, there is a human being on the other side. And that's what gets lost in the messages. That's the problem, okay? So back to some of these questions. There was another really good one down here that I want to get to. Let's see here. So we're going to get into some practical stuff. Joey Salayandia. Joey, I apologize if I've really butchered your name there, okay? He says, the only issue these had with models has been a hard time with facial expressions. Even experienced models a lot of times have a bit of a rough time doing the facial expressions that he's after. He could chalk it up to him being not clear enough, but sometimes even saying, gives me a big smile, causes them to have a very hard time. It's odd. So, Joey, here's the thing, okay? Interestingly enough, the fact that models have a hard time smiling, 99.9% of the time, it's caused by photographers. Not necessarily you, Joey, but photographers that they've worked with previously. And swear to God, so I want you guys to own this, right? If you've done this, I want you to own it. Because back in the day, way back in the day, I did the same thing. So I learned the hard way. The fact of the matter is, when you tell someone to smile, right? They do cheese. So without getting into all that cognitive science, but just giving you a tiny little piece of it, that cheesy smile, in the science world, in the psychology world, cognitive psychology, it's referred to as the Duquesne smile. You can Google it, check it out. The Duquesne smile is one of 7 prototype expressions that your brain recognizes instantly. In fact, actually subconsciously, meaning you are not aware, but the brain is aware. The brain sees it, processes it, knows what it means. What does that mean to you cognitively in terms of your awareness? It means that Duquesne smile is actually boring. That's why if you pay attention, don't take my word for it, I'm just some guy on YouTube. Start paying attention when you drive down the highway and you start looking at billboards, or when you pick up a magazine. Look at the smiles on the billboards and the magazines. You will notice, and I'm not saying never, never's a bad word, but rarely will you see a person doing a cheesy smile for 2 reasons. So the one hopefully is kind of obvious, gang. Cheese never looks good. It just doesn't. It simply doesn't. It looks forced. That's bad body language. More importantly, in the advertising world, advertising is really, really expensive. Advertisers don't leave things to chance. For an advertiser, it's not all about being creative. It's about making sure that they're going to get their money back on their investment. They've done all this research. They're aware of all the psychology. So the smiles that you will see in advertising, they're what I refer to as flawed. Not like in a bad way, ooh, they look horrible, in a way that they're off just a little bit. They're kind of more real. Go look at my profile pictures, guys. Every profile picture you've ever seen of me, even when you guys Those of you that have met me in person and done the selfies, what's the thing that Joe does? The mouth is open, it's happy, but it's not a cheesy smile. It's off. And what does that do? It gets people to engage. It gets people to pay attention, okay? So the problem of it is what happens is guys start out and they say to the girl, okay, give me a smile. And then they realize, that doesn't look good. And you can't say to the girl, oh my God, what is that smile, right? Because the minute you do that, she's not gonna like you very much. So it's like, crap, what do you do? And so the guys give up. And they tell the girl, okay, let's do serious, don't smile. It's no different than you get the girl in front of the camera, you're shooting boudoir for the first time, and the mistake that every shooter makes, all right, give me a sexy expression. And this is the lesson that every photographer learns the first time they tell a young girl, give me a sexy expression. You can literally watch this happen to anyone you photograph. If you tell them that, you've never worked with them before, you'll watch their expression suddenly go blank. Their eyes will go up for a second while they're thinking, and then they'll start laughing because they're going to realize they don't know what the hell a sexy expression is. Because remember those prototype expressions that I talked about? There is no prototype for sexy. So what they wind up doing is they tell the girl, no, don't smile. Just give me that stare. Give me that intense stare. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, the intense stare is kind of sexy, but think about it, folks. You know, we're all adults here. When you've been in a situation where you were being intimate with a partner, there was probably a lot of laughing and giggling going on. Sexy is usually fun. Sexy is usually energetic. It's a good time, right? It's not like, oh, I'm going to stare at you. Like, not so much, okay? So, yeah, the biggest problem with the expression thing, Joey, is understanding that when I direct a model, and if you guys have ever seen me talk in person, you've seen this. I have talked about this in videos previously, several videos. I do it more like a movie director. I will talk about the emotion, about the energy, about the attitude that I'm after, right? I'm not going to say smile. I'm not going to say look serious, okay? I'm going to say, all right, you know what? Let's go with kind of a somber, kind of like I'm a not happy kind of thing, or I'm an angry or whatever. I'm going to talk about that, and then if it's happy, I'm going to say, okay, look, let's start with happy, all right? I want a little bit of energy. That's really good. Good. Give me a little bit more energy, a little bit more. Yeah. And if I see the person trying to hold back the smile, I'll stop after I get a couple shots and say, hey, listen, I see you trying not to smile. It's totally okay if you wind up smiling, but here's what I don't want. I don't want to pick up the camera and have you go, looks cheesy, right? So what I want is I want to pick up the camera. When I start shooting, I want to see that energy build in your eyes. And it's going to build, and that excitement's going to build. And then finally, at the end, you're going to have a big smile. And that's cool, okay? Trevor Baldwin, you don't have to do sexy unless you're going to do your zombie, right? Because it would be cool to see a sexy zombie, just saying. So, anyway, again, it's one of those things, guys, where you're not putting in the effort and you're not taking the time to put yourself in your subject's shoes. Not to mention that if you're 43, Joe, or if you're my age, which is even older, and you got a young girl in front of you, and especially if she's wearing lingerie, or even a bathing suit, or even worse yet, if she's nude, and you start saying words like sexy, which includes sex, it's not a great word to use. It's not a great word to put into the mix. It can make things uncomfortable. So again, you've got to work a ways around that a little bit, okay? So now there are a couple things that went by here that I want. I want to get back to make sure. A brilliant mind once offered that pose is a 4-letter word. It is. Pose is absolutely a 4-letter word, so I would avoid that at all costs. Nick, tonight is all your fault. Just saying. Hi, let's see. I think you think you got this from me. Oh, here. I'm sorry. Let me stick this in the screen here. But you quickly gave up on TFP. If you offer to pay 50 or 75 bucks, it makes it much easier to book a model. If not, if you're not a well-established photographer. Yeah, and it is. And honestly, Nick, number one, you did get that from me. We talked about that when you met me in Delaware, okay, at the Horizon Photography Summit. And guys, I'll be the first to tell you, you know, it's just about keeping it real and keeping it fair, right? It's dealing with human nature. I'm sorry, but it's not inappropriate, and the women or the young men are not bad or evil because they're more motivated with a little bit of money. I'm sorry, gang. you would be more motivated with a little bit of money, right? I mean, let's face it, that's just how it works. So, you know, that's just how it is. So this is a good one too. Kenny Bringle, one thing you've realized for yourself anyway is not to use the 1, 2, 3 click when shooting people. Kenny, I promise you that's not just for you. So now I know a lot of you do this, so I'm sorry to mess with your mojo and your setup and your system, but 1, 2, 3 click, dumbest idea ever, period. Done, okay? You don't do 1, 2, 3 click. I don't want my model to know when I'm taking the picture, unless I've got the model doing something like really weird or awkward and I need her to hold a moment. That's different, right? But just for normal shooting, like shooting portraits. I see photographers do it all the time. It's like they pick up the camera like, okay, 3, 2, 1, click. Ah, that was good. Okay, turn a little bit, good. 3, 2, 1, click. It's like, what the hell? Is this math class or is this a portrait session? Like, come on, seriously? 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3. Why? Just talk to your subject. Create moments. We're photographers. Make moments. That's what we do. Don't count. So yes, Kenny, I'm glad that you learned that lesson because that is totally not the way to go about it here at all. Okay? Let me get rid of that one. Let's see here. Scrolling back up. I know I missed a couple. So Diego, you're an engineer and you shoot as a hobby. You have seen some toxicity in the photography world. It's new to, yeah, you know, Diego, here's the thing, and I know some YouTubers have been doing videos about the whole toxicity thing lately. Look, I have a lot of respect for those YouTubers. They're the better YouTubers, by the way, but they're young. They're still a little wet behind the ears. Look, you know, there's toxicity anywhere. Anywhere where there's any kind of competition, there's toxicity. And in this modeling stuff, what are we talking about? Let's be real, gang. We're talking about male, female. That means there's lots of testosterone and hormones involved and all that kind of crap, right? There just is. So yeah, it's stupid. It's straight up stupid. It's adults behaving like children. Done. And 99% of the time, all that toxicity is for the wrong reasons. It's for dumb reasons. It just is. Because none of it has any actual impact on creating good images. Just doesn't, right? So anyway, let's see. Steve, glad to have you back here. Ken, there you go, Ken. I have a feeling if I asked my fellow visionary Scott Bourne about this, he would agree that the 1, 2, 3 click is probably not going to work really well with the herons at all. So yeah, I would say that's probably not going to do it. So let's see here if I can get. I think I'm caught up on the questions that were typed in. Let me see if I can get one or two more in here. So here's a good one, and this is actually a very reasonable one. Doug G. Knapp asked. This is one that was on Facebook, so I don't have it to post in the screen, guys. His biggest struggle is getting a model to have the outfit that he's looking for. It'd be great if they had an online portfolio of their outfits. So Doug, I completely agree with you. It would be great if they had an online portfolio of the outfits, but you're not thinking outside the box and doing problem solving there, Doug. Most models I've interacted with in the last 10 years, they do have online portfolios of their outfits. It's called Instagram or Facebook, but definitely Instagram. 90% of the models that I work with around the country when I travel and do workshops and events, once I find the girl, whether I find her on Instagram or whether I find her on Model Mayhem, I go to her Instagram then and say, do you have this outfit? Do you have that outfit? Do you have this outfit? As long as I have those outfits, cool. I want you to bring that top. I want those pants. I want that dress. Done. Boom. Outfit planning done. So easy. And the girl's response always, that was so easy. Thank you. Right? So yeah, I mean, they have it. It's not that hard. Okay. The other piece is, and I saw somebody comment on this way back. If there's something that I want for a shoot that I think is ideal, I'll buy it. I'll just buy it. I spend a lot of time on the clearance pages on Amazon. I will spend time on the clearance sections of websites like H&M, websites like Forever 21. If I'm doing like lingerie or swimwear stuff, I'll spend time on yandy.com, avoiding all the really racy stuff and going for the clearance stuff. And that way, like a lot of times I'll get like really cool little outfits for like $2 or $3 because they're clearance, okay? So, you know, again, it's about putting a little effort into it. You know, if you just want to, if you just want to be able to pick up a camera and take pictures, unfortunately, it kind of doesn't work that way, right? You have to be willing to put effort into it, guys. That's just the piece. So I find that most of them do have. I find that most of them do have stuff online. You just got to be willing to take a look for it. So okay, camera perv. I would argue camera perv that's one of those usernames that while I find the humor in it, kind of like gas and that kind of stuff, models may not find the humor in that and may completely take it the wrong way. Just saying, okay? How do you respond when a client comes in and says, how do you want me to pose? Every client that I've ever worked with comes in and says, how do you want me to pose? I make it very clear. I don't want one of those girls that thinks she knows how to pose, because she doesn't. Very few models are actually good at posing. And guys, please, 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 don't think that posing in the professional realm, New York fashion world, is like what you see on America's Next Top Model. It's not. That's a reality show. What is a reality show? A reality show is where you take reasonably intelligent people, put them in extremely stressful situations, and then you sit back and you watch the train wreck. That's a reality show. And I will point out to you that for all those America's Next Top Model episodes, how many of those models went on to become top models? Right? Just saying. So that's not your best example for what modeling is. Okay? I'll give you guys a little task to do, because I can't play it on here because it's on YouTube, all right? And there's copyright issues. But when we're done, not now, when we're done, stay on YouTube, type into the YouTube search the phrase Coco Rocha. So that's Coco, C-O-C-O, Rocha, R-O-C-H-A-A, followed by how many poses does it take to get the shot. You'll see a video come up that was done for Target. It was a Target ad. This was years back. Coco Rocha, just to have a little bit of background, she's known as being one of the best posing models in the industry. She is a classically trained dancer also, so she has incredible body control. So if you were to watch this video, what they do is on the left side, they show her in real time, and she's jumping up and down, doing these jumps. And on the right side, you see the finish shot come up, okay, as she does it. And it happens really fast, so it's kind of cool to watch. You have to watch the video at least twice, gang, at least twice, right? Here's why. The first time, you're going to look at it and say, well, Joe's full of crap. She's changing every time, and she's like just rolling, and the pictures are kind of really cool, and it's like, wow, she knows her stuff, so some models can do it. Watch it the second time, and watch really close. You'll see a couple examples where she does a jump, and she'll drop her chin really low, and you can tell when you do it, the picture, the chin's like way low, it doesn't look right. And the very next jump, she'll do the exact same thing, and that chin will be down out here, where it looks much better. She has that awareness and that body control. 9 out of 10 people, probably 9.9 out of 10 people that you ever work with will not have that kind of control. So what I do when people say, how do you want me to pose, is I tell them how I want them to pose. And I never use the word pose because, why gang, say it with me, pose is a 4-letter word. So I will demonstrate, or I will talk about what's the mood, what's the body language, how do I want the person to sit, or how do I want them to stand. But the minute you say pose, the connotation between or behind pose is don't move. That's the connotation, right? It just is, okay? So let's see here. See, this is really good. So there's a lot, obviously, I'm not gonna get to all these questions, gang. We're about to hit 90 minutes, which means I need to pull the plug, but I promise you, we're gonna deal with all these. We will pick this topic up again. In fact, what I'm learning tonight here is, and what I would encourage you guys to do, if you're not members of my Facebook group, please join my Facebook group. In fact, here, let me get the link. I'll put it in the chat window, because the reason why I want you to join the Facebook group, and I don't even have it open. Guys, will somebody do me a favor that's watching? Post the link to the Facebook group in here. I know a couple of you here that are in it. Join the Facebook group. I'll start a thread in the Facebook group tonight for anything and everything about models that you want to talk about. And I think I need to build a video series around this, okay? Trevor, thank you. Model Coco Rocha with 19 jumping poses. Is that really it? I'm not sure that's it. Trevor, as long as she's on a red background and it has Target, then that's it. I thought it had a different title, but so yes, Coco Rocha is Canadian, Mark. She is indeed, okay? Beautiful woman, incredibly talented, but not your typical model when it comes to her ability to pose. A lot of her dance training is what, allows her to do the things that she does. But that's the reason why, as a photographer, you can't watch that kind of stuff and think, ooh, that's how it's supposed to work. That doesn't. Even when you see a real behind the scenes from a real New York fashion shoot, the models aren't going from one dramatic pose to another dramatic pose. They're going from a dramatic pose to let's change the hand, to let's change this hand, to maybe let's twist a little bit more, to let's make variations. And then after several variations, then they're going to go ahead and they're going to change it up again. Ed Bowden, thank you so much. Or Eric Bowden, sorry, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So here's why that happens, gang. You've all had this happen. If you put a girl in front of your camera and she thinks she's good at posing, and so she's moving and she's doing stuff, and it's cool. You're watching it. She's sexy. She's really moving. She's got confidence. Your lighting's looking good. It's all doing good. And she does something, and you get a shot, but you didn't quite get it, and you're like, wait, go back. And the girl's like, I don't know what I was doing. Had that happen? Sure you have. If you haven't, you will if you do what I just described. If the girl's in character and she's just flying around, she's not keeping a catalog of what she just did. She's thinking ahead to what should I do next. When you have somebody in front of your camera, do you want them thinking ahead about what to do next? Or do you want them thinking about the emotion that you're trying to get in your shot? Take the thinking out of the equation. Human beings suck at multitasking. Science proves that. That's not my opinion. So don't allow them to multitask. Make it easier. If the girl is doing smaller moves and working in more of a confined space and idea, it's a lot easier for you to say, oh, put the arm back up, and she's going to know exactly where she had it because you were Coco, the making of a cover shot. That's it. Yes, Terry J. That's the video I was talking about. Okay? So anyway, gang, listen, you have my word. We are going to dig into this a lot more. But seriously, for a lot of you, I know I threw a lot of things your way tonight that didn't really make you happy, right? Because it's kind of challenging what you think you know and what you've been experiencing. So, understand, I'm not going to debate anybody. For 20 years, I did modeling portfolios, 17 years plus. I did modeling portfolios very, very successfully, okay? It works. I used science, I used organization, I used creativity, but most importantly, if you followed along with everything I'm talking about tonight, I maintained control in my studio, in my videos. That's what I did. In fact, here, gang, I'll tell you what, really quick before I sign off, I know you guys can't post the link. Let me see if I can find you the link, okay? And I will put it in here so you have it. Bear with me one sec. There it is. So copy, and we'll paste this in. Oh, shoot. And of course, it's not going to grab the link there. Wait, let's try it here. Still not going to grab the link. All right, one more time. Let me try and copy that. I thought I had it. Copy link address. Come back. There it is. Okay, guys, there you go. So there's the link. Check out the video. So remember, watch it twice. First time, it's like, wow, she's amazing. And she is amazing. Second time, you will notice she'll do a jump, chin goes down. The next jump, she does the exact same body movements, but the chin goes out. She corrects it. You have not worked with models that are capable of doing that. And that's okay, right? Because you're not going to be able to afford Coco Rocha. At least you're probably not. That's why you have to take more responsibility. And guys, I saw a lot of people talking about Pinterest tonight, mood boards and all that kind of stuff. They're great ideas. They work. Create Pinterest boards, create mood boards. Save pictures on your phone of stuff that you see for good poses. Like, oh my God, I love that pose. I want to do that pose. And then you can go into the studio and you can show your model, hey, listen, I want to try something like this. What do you think? You think you can try that? Let's try it. Right? Collaborate, work. Stop thinking you got to be big man on campus with your chest puffed out. I don't need no stinking phone and pictures to tell my models what to do. Come on, guys, it's a collaboration. I'll do that all the time. I have no problem walking into the studio with an idea and saying, hey, here's this shot. We're not going to do this shot, but I love this pose, or I love that hand situation, whatever. I want to use that, and let's do this. And I'm going to communicate it, I'm going to sell it, and then we're going to try it. and then we're going to look at it and see what works, what doesn't work. We're going to go from there. All right? So, gang, you all got something to practice with now, right? So please, get out there, take some pictures. You know the drill. Whatever happens, remember these words. And these words as soon as... Okay, here you go. Ready? One more time. Remember these.
Thanks for watching another live episode of TogChat. Now, pick up that camera and shoot something, because your best shot is your next shot. So keep learning, keep thinking, and keep shooting. Adios.